I have to cut you here because time is not a good friend this evening. We cannot say a lot as far as journalism is concerned.
Yeah.
And of course, it is an issue we might be revisiting in the future. Now, let us take our viewers over to this other story, which might rather definitely be ending this edition. On the 4th of November 1982, former President of the Republic, Madu Ahijo, resigned, making room for President Paul Biya to succeed the Supreme Magistracy of the state. 40 years down the lane, Cameroonians are counting their blessings and their troubles, the trouble moments of the regime. Now, yesterday was the 4th of November. It is the day he resigned. After 2 days, President Biya was sworn in officially as the constitutional heir of Amadou Ahijo.
Yes.
Before we come to analysis, let us have this report done earlier on our newscast.
I do so swear.
President Paul Biya has been taking this oath for many years today. History has it that November 4th, 1982, that is exactly 40 years ago, former President of the then United Republic of Cameroon, Amadou Ahijo, resigned owing to health issues. His constitutional successor, Paul Biya, who then was Prime Minister, had to be sworn in 2 days later, that is on November 6th, as President. 40 years down the lane, a lot of water has gone under the bridge. The country has its bad, good and ugly moments. This man, Paul Bartholomew Biya Bivondo, from Mvomeka in the south region of Cameroon, has been at the supremacy of the state. He has had his sweetest and ugliest moments along the corridors of power. One of these ugly moments is the 6th April 1984 military coup attempt, when he decided to replace the Republican guards of his predecessor a day before. Since then, he has been a strong man, holding his destiny and that of Cameroon firmly to date. Another nightmare forced its way into Biya's life when the Bamenda-born political party, the Social Democratic Front, SDF, under John Frundi, forced its way into the political arena in the early 1990s at the dawn of African democratic renaissance. Despite this, His Excellency Paul Biya has been the main figure, crushing mercilessly his political opponents in all presidential polls, irrespective of usual complaints of rigging. No one can deny that the SCNC movement in Western Cameroon, the Anglophone crisis, and later the current Ambazonian imbroglio in the northwest and southwest regions have bedeviled the good deal regime. In fact, it has opened cracked many political pundits think good governance could have sealed the deal. However, no matter how ugly Mr. Biya's presidential and political report card may seem, one can't argue the successes recorded. One of Biya's outstanding stronghold has been his ability to sustain a constant diplomatic link. In fact, this greatly rewarded Cameroon, the embattled Bakassi Peninsula, having Ghanaians Kofi Annan of late, and former Nigerian head of state Olusegun Obasanjo, very instrumental in the process. 40 years, his peers envy his strength in handling national issues. His political supporters could write many novels and endless credits to President Biya. Some say he is the wise man of Africa. Of course, at 89, wisdom is aplenty. President Paul Biya is 40 as president. He is still natural candidate of his CPDM political party. It is expected that he will stand for the 2025 presidential polls. As he leads the country from this post-presidential Ruby Jubilee era, Cameroonians remain hopeful that things might evolve for the better.
Right, 40 years, and supporters of the ruling Cameroon People Democratic Movement Party they are as team in every part of the country, celebrating their number one champion. They say it's a champion. Yeah. Now, Charles, you are part of the ruling.
Yes, I'm a
militant of the ruling CPDM party.
Because I see no other party in this country worthy enough for me to support. I don't see any other party right now.
Okay, it is a right of every Cameroonian. Yeah. 40 years of President Biya as a member of that party. What can you make out of it?
First of all, I wish to say happy anniversary in advance to the party and our champion, President Paul Biya, in 2 days' time. I'm saying it par anticipation, I will say in French. First of all, I want to say that Mr. President came into this country where several sectors were on their knees. And whether we like it or not, the statistics are in his favor based on what he has been able to achieve. If you would permit me, I could first of all talk about, let me begin with the electoral process in this country, which many still think that it is not the best. Of course, it's not the best. It will never be the best, but we can always find room for ameliorations. For instance, we moved from Onel 1, we moved from Onel 2, and we are presently in Elekam. And trust me, we're going to certainly have some reforms based on the ideas that the president is having and in collaboration with other political parties. And we have been talking about the media here. It is during his time in the 1990s that he made that statement, but in Bamenda, during the CPGM Congress, when he talked about the liberalization of the media sector, the media landscape. And since then, we have seen media houses springing up left and right in this country, being able to operate freely. And we talk about the health sector. When we talk about the health sector, when Biya took over the leadership of this nation, we hadn't up to 20% of the health facilities we have right now. For more than 4,000 health facilities that this country owns, that the state owns, I can authoritatively tell you that Cameroon has 8 first-grade hospitals, including the new one in Gaura, which was recently inaugurated by the PM. And I can also tell you that 2 second-grade hospitals like that of Sangmelima and Bafoussam were also created recently, and 14 third-grade facilities, health-grade facilities. And on all these 360 council areas in this country, we all have hospitals in this country. So if I want to summarize everything, I'll tell you authoritatively that with 4,000 health facilities owned by the state, 20% only existed when Mr. Biya came to power. So he has built 80% of what we have in this country in terms of health sector. In the education sector, it's a no-brainer. We know we have 8 state universities, 10 state universities.
Yes, which have there's a recent presidential decree that has given state university to all the regions.
To all the regions, of course, and that tells you the kind of person he is. And minus that, we have higher institutions of learning, higher schools of learning in this country. I'm not talking about ENAM. I'm talking about maybe the NASLA, I'm talking about the teachers' training facilities, I'm talking about the polytechs that we have in this country, which are under the stewardship of President Paul Biya. And then you go to the energy sector, which is very vital. Many say Cameroonians don't have energy. That's true. We don't have enough energy so far, but from 1982, we just had 28% of the population of this country who had access to energy, to direct energy. Right now, we have 69% of the population in this country who have access to energy. And what we can do is, I think the only problem we have with this sector is the transportation sector, transporting this energy to, if not, we would have had it everywhere in this country because we have enough power to give to Cameroonians. So this is a sector which I think there is still a lot to do to develop for future. And then you talk about Cameroon, how Cameroon has worked with its external partners. At some point in the history of this country, we had just the French who working with us. Right now, I bet you they don't have up to 5% in terms of foreign investment in this country. I think we have diversified. The president has diversified. He works with China, he works with Russia, he works with Turkey, he works with India, he works with Brazil, he works with different other partners. And that has made life a little bit more easier for Cameroonians. Had it been we were working only with the French, that would have been more complicated.
Charles, I know I have to intervene because you might want to list all those achievements from here to tomorrow.
Yes.
We don't really have the time.
Yeah, but let's come back to security.
Okay.
I think the security aspect is one of the most important things President has been able to do. You know, when he created the B, the Rapid Intervention Forces, called the B, people thought was for something, for something different. But mind you, these forces have been able to help send away incursions from rebels in the east, from Central African Republic, who used to come into Cameroon and raise havoc. He has succeeded in keeping Boko Haram at bay in the northern region of this country. And like we're talking about the separatist activities in the southwest and northwest, it has helped massively to curb the activities of the separatists, whom we know they just act anyhow without thinking. We know they attack schools, attack churches, attack business people, attack students. Every Cameroonian in this region cannot claim that has not been a victim one way or the other. So I think the military might of this country, through the stewardship of the number one commander, chief commander, President Paul Biya, has been up to the game right so far. That's why this country is still what it is.
I want you to wear the shoes of Biya's opposition, somebody who is anti-regime, for 1 minute, or if you can stay in your same cab and tell us the other part of the 40 years of President Biya.
I think the CPDM or the regime of President Biya has been marred by huge losses based on corruption, and it has been one of the cankerworms of this country. We are seeing it at the higher echelon right now, because the ministers of the President Paul Biya's cabinet are always sent to jail. That is to tell you that he's not tolerant to even his friends who steal. Of course, you hardly have opposition people who steal from the government, because they are not part of the system. They are not part of the government. So it is not news.
In other words, if they get there, they'll still steal. It
is a problem. I've just given you, earlier on we talked about how things operate. For instance, the urbanization process of Buea. We talked about authority, council agents who are corrupt. So it is right down to our feet, and we need to walk it out from our feet right to the top.
Nghateng Donald, you are of the civil society, and sometimes you people also play the watchdog role like journalists do. 40 years of President Paul Biya. Do you think any other person is worth the salt to unseat His Excellency President Paul Biya, maybe in 2025?
Like Charles said, there has been successes. He has quoted health, road construction. I also want to talk about education. When he took over, how many state universities were there?
Minus that secondary schools. In Douala, for instance, in Douala there was just one secondary school. There was just one in Yaoundé. But right now, Yaoundé counts close to 60. Douala counts close to 60. You cannot mention how many secondary schools we have in the Southwest.
Yes.
Just to say that behind this glowing picture of successes, there are also some difficulties, like he talked about inflation, security concerns. Those are things that you cannot avoid. And he talked about maybe corruption and all the like. The only thing I want to blame the government for is checks and balances, which they are doing now. People get into office and disappoint the government. You are elected mayor here, you want to embezzle. You are put a minister here or a director here, you want to embezzle. Of course, they will blame the government.
So you have a school of thought which says President Biya is not the problem, it's Cameroonians are the problem.
No, the problem comes when there's a little bit of lack of checks and balances, but which is already doing some, like he talked about, ministers often sent to...
So what I wanted to know from you is there any Cameroonian worth the salt at this point who can unseat President
Like he
Biya?
said, I think that when it comes to politics, the CPDM is strong. I will tell you that CPDM does not, like we think, very much rig elections. CPDM knows how to do politics, which every other party, that's a little problem. CPDM has bought the hearts of Cameroonians. They are everywhere. That's the only political party that is everywhere. In every village, you see a CPDM fabric.
Charles, 40 years. We are about wrapping over the program, but I want to find out 40 years. Can we really boast and say that there is democracy in Cameroon?
See, there is democracy.
Okay.
It may not be perfect, but there is democracy. For instance, change in politics is not by mouth service, like I see people do. It implies you go through the electoral process to effect change. Mr. Biya has been elected all through. That's democracy.
Do you see any images of electoral or constitutional maltreatment? Do you see where constitution is being thrown into the abyss for President Biya to stay there?
No, I haven't. I think everything has been done within the framework of the law. Yeah, everything has been done within the framework of the law.
Jude, I want to tell you something. I want to say something here. The problem of Africa is not whether democracy exists or not. The problem of Africa is sustainable development. People have good roads, have food, have the basic human necessities. Remember, I will quote Aristotle, who says that for him, democracy is not the best form of government. There are nations in this world that are not democratic, but their citizens are quite fine. Libya, for example, is democratic now. In the past, they said, it wasn't, but they were quite fine. So I don't want to say that, okay, you're talking about democracy. what Cameroonians need, they worry, some worry, when you go down, the worry is not that President Paul Biya is staying in power. The worry is that maybe they lack basic necessities. And I think that the government is practically doing a bit. The point is not whether it stays. In other places, there are people stay for long.
Just to align with you, I remember in the U.S. House of Congress, there are congressmen and women who've been there for 45 to even 50 years. You have them there, they are 80, 70 years old, 60 years old. They've been there 30, 40. And in those states where those congressmen and women come from, they have population more than Cameroon. All
right. Let us not talk too much. I'm no doubt on the 6th, that is on Monday,
yes.
Across the country, in Fako here, of course, there are going to be celebrations.
Definitely.
And I'm sure 2025 as well, your natural candidate will be there.
Well, it takes a lot
for Congress for the CPD.
Yeah, it takes. We're definitely going to have a Congress, but minus that, it will depend on the president. If he feels he's still physically fit, if he feels he wants to hand over the leadership of the party, because in our party, the leadership is automatically, the leadership person becomes the natural presidential candidate for any election in the country. So it is left to see what, behind closed doors, we as militants of the party are going to agree upon.
Right. Well, Charles Embola, we have come to the end of our 7 Days in Focus today. That was the last story. We are wrapping up. We had these stories over the week, and we are going to revisit this 40 years of President Paul Biya next week, when members of his party would have been celebrating His Excellency President Paul Biya 40 years as President of the Republic. Charles, thank you very much for making our time to be with us in this edition.
Thank you, MBAKU Jude, and it's been a wonderful time in the studios. Hopefully, I'll get another letter of invitation and I'll come.
Indeed. Donald Nghateng is always here. Donald, it's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you, MBAKU Jude, 7 Days in Focus, and thank you, Divine Mercy Television, for sharing the light of hope and for inspiring young Cameroonians. Thank you.
And for those of you watching us online on Facebook, YouTube, and all our such social media outlets, we want to appreciate your fidelity. Those of you watching live on DMRTV Television, we are from Buea in Cameroon. Thanking you and hoping that we'll have another moment together next week, same time on 7 Days in Focus. Good night, happy weekend.